Welcome to another episode of BHP Book Club. I am your host, Kelly Morgan. Today I'm speaking with author, storyteller, Vito Altavilla. He's wrote a wonderful memoir called It Began in Brooklyn, and it is literally about his life, and he shares some hilarious stories. If you are a fan of memoirs, you should definitely pick this one up. I'm so excited to speak with him. I won't keep you waiting any longer. Welcome to the podcast, author, storyteller, Vito Altavilla. Vito, thank you so much for being the newest book club member and coming on the podcast. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, good. I'm so glad that you are here to talk about your book. It began in Brooklyn, and I love to talk to authors. And one of the things that I always like to ask authors is kind of find out about their writing journey. So, I'm interested in how this book became a book and what made you decide to make it a book.
It's funny. I'm basically a retired industrial research chemist. Okay, I got patents and all that kind of stuff. That's another lifetime, okay? So on Friday mornings, I usually get together with a bunch of guys from church. Usually Friday morning, we have breakfast together. And everybody's swapping stories and so forth. And I seem to have a little more than most of them. And most of them were saying, one of the guys was saying, you got so many stories, Vito, you ought to write a book. I said, maybe I'll give it a shot. That's the way the whole thing started. And 8 months later, I had the book. And it got pretty exciting. I found that writing, it just generated so many memories. Like, I haven't forgotten anything. And it was just a lot of fun. I found that as I'm writing it, I started laughing to myself about this particular incident or that particular incident. And although they weren't funny at the time, in retrospect, they're funny now, because it was such a different time. So what I had actually done is I actually sent out a few books. And believe it or not, I sent out one to Ken Burns, who does the documentaries. And his all nice letter, not an email, an actual letter saying, well, I said, oh, the hell with that, I'll try and write a screenplay. So I never wrote a screenplay before. So I got a book on how to write a screenplay. So I wrote a screenplay. That's with a whole bunch of people looking at it now. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, it became a lot of fun. And as it progressed, I was getting flashbacks. I mean, you got to remember that once you start writing it, I started it, the first chapter with my father, because the Italian tradition is you always name the first son after the father's father. That's how I got the name Vito, okay? I got brothers named Joe and Bob, but my name got stuck with Vito, okay? The problem with that is my father learned how to fight at a very young age, okay? Because he had to do the same thing. And his first name was Cuce Fiasco, which actually means crucifix. So his name is Crucifix Altavilla. And in an Italian neighborhood, that's not good. That's not good at all. And he got up to the 8th grade before he had an incident with a teacher. Actually, the teacher liked to pick on him. And anyway, make a long story short, my father laid him out. That was the end of his schooling.
He laid out the teacher, and that was the end of
it. He clocked him right out, yeah. The teacher was saying, since his name is Crucifix, where do you think the nails were in Christ's hands? It was during Lent. And he was, my uncle described it to me. He said, your father said he didn't think it was the palm of the hand. He thought it was above the wrist because it was stronger there. And he said, everybody was talking about what he had done. He said, see, I can still make a fist. And as the teacher leaned over to look at his fist, he clocked him. But you got to remember, it was different times. Anyway, to make a long story short, that was the beginning of the book. 1941, my dad's married with a couple of years with my mom, and they got a house in Gerritsen Beach, which is Brooklyn. Now, there's a lot of little towns in Brooklyn. Brooklyn's comprised of a lot of Brooklyn Heights, Flatbush, Bedford-Stuyvesant, all these different areas, but it's all Brooklyn. So anyway, 1941. So he got a house in Garrison Beach, $500 down and a $2,000 mortgage. Now, to show you how different things were then, the house needed work, okay? It needed shingles on the roof. It needed some carpentry work. It needed and I described this. And my father said he took off a couple of weeks from work to try and get it started. And Mr. Mahoney, the guy next door, said, no. He said, wait, slow down, Al. He said, look, Jimmy, the roof has got lots of extra shingles. He'll be over. He'll give you a hand. He'll have that thing done in a day. And then there was Frankie the carpenter, and then it was Bruce the plumber, and so forth. Everybody on the block had a different trade. And they did the whole thing. And my father said, he wasn't used to that. He said, well, what are you? Neighbors helping neighbors don't charge. It didn't cost a cent. I said, here was my dad with, I was 2 years old. My brother was 2 months old. And that was the beginning of it. Now, to get an idea of mindset, a lot of Irish and Italian in that neighborhood, a couple of Polish people, and unfortunately one German family who still spoke with a German accent. Not good during World War II.
Yeah, I was gonna say not good.
No. And the one thing that they all had a fear of on the block, everybody had the same fear, is when Western Union guy came down with the telegram, okay? Because everybody had, pretty well every house had a blue star in the window, which meant you had somebody in the army. But there were 4 houses that had gold stars, which means they were gone. So when that guy came down with his bicycle, everybody just held their breath. He just past the house, just go past the house, But that was the tension part of it. On the other hand, there were things like Mr. Mahoney had. There was only one tree on that block, and Mr. Mahoney had it. It was a weeping willow tree, and it was leaning towards the house, and he was getting nervous about it. So he called up one of the guys, and that guy called up a bunch of the other guys on the block. And that following Saturday, every father became a lumberjack. The guys all went out and got checkered shirts, and everybody had their own saw. There's no chainsaws, okay? Nobody had a chainsaw. What are you going to use a chainsaw for? It's Brooklyn. Everybody had a regular saw, though. So the first guy up there would be Jimmy the fireman, okay? Because he was used to heights. And when his arm got tired, then it was Frankie the carpenter. And then it was Bruce the plumber. And my father was down at the bottom. He says, "Put those guys." I said, "I'll stack." He said, "I ain't going to go up that damn tree." And the whole tree came down. And the kids, we were ecstatic because it was a weeping willow tree. The branches were flexible. We could all make our own bow and arrows, which we did the following day. But at the end of that day, when everything was stacked up, that called for a block party. Now, block parties happened and I checked this out about a year ago, and they still have block parties in that area. But something special happened, it would be a block party. Whatever the wives were making for supper, that would come out. Get sawhorses, 4x8 sheets, so forth. There'd be whiskey, wine, beer. Didn't matter how drunk somebody got, you're going to walk home. Nobody had a car. So it really didn't matter. It didn't matter how loaded you were. And it was that, and they played some music, and people danced in the street. It was just a great place to grow up. Now, that was the first block party. I'll mention one other block party, and then I'll mention some other things. This is all in the book, okay?
Okay.
The second block party was kind of unique because that made the daily news. It's 1947-48, okay? There was a jumper. He was on the fire escape. And sure enough, the fire engine comes in. Jimmy the fireman's the first guy up the ladder, scales up a couple of more floors from the outside, grabs onto now this is all photographed with the Daily News, but they only had shots of Jimmy the fireman from the back, okay? So Jimmy gets there, and they said, they're taking pictures, and all of a sudden you see the guy sag over Jimmy's shoulder. And they lower a harness from the roof, and Jimmy comes down with the guy over his shoulder. They noticed he had a little bit of bruise on his cheek. He said, "Oh, he bumped against the building." It's not a big deal. So he said, "Well, how come he just sagged?" He says, "I told him a lot of people really love him. They really care for him, and so forth." He said, "Really?" He said, "So," and then the newspapers went away. So Jimmy comes over to where the guys are talking. We heard. He says, "What really happened, Jimmy?" He said, that's a lot of bullshit with these guys." He said, "What happened?" He says, "I got 4 kids to come home to a night." As soon as I got within range, he said, I hit that son of a bitch just as hard as I can. He just sagged right over my shoulder. Another block party.
Oh, that's a great story. So the book is a memoir of you growing up in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it's basically nonfiction narrative, okay? Now, I got to tell you a funny story, though. This all the stories I'm talking about are in the book, right? But you'll like this. Now, we all were making bow and arrows, okay? So we made the bows. We all had every mother saved the string from the butcher because it was good string, cord. So we stripped off the bark because it's soft on a weeping willow tree, and we made ourselves bows. Now we needed arrows. Well, it was a little swamp area, and it had reeds. So you cut a reed about, maybe so big, and you get tar from the street because the tar always melted in the summer on the streets in those days. But now you needed a metal tip. Well, a couple of blocks away, some people had cars. So we'd undo the cap, where you fill the air, and that became the tip, right? Those things would go 150, 200 feet. 8-year-old kids, we made those, okay? So I told the guys, I said, what about a slingshot? I said, now, Vito, everybody called me Sonny in those days. I said, no, Sonny, we're happy with this. I said, I'm gonna get a slingshot. So I go back and I find a perfect thing, a little perfect wire like that. I had to get the rubber, so I'm rummaging through where my mom kept the wash and so forth. I found a rubber girdle, and I whispered, do you really need it, Mom? So she couldn't hear me. She can't hear me. She says, I guess it's okay. Cut up a girdle. That was really great rubber, man. I mean, they really made a girdle, great rubber. But then I needed a pouch. So I called my friend Matty. He says, Matty, I got to get a pouch. I can't find the right thing. He says, hey, the nuns do their wash. They just did their wash today. Thursdays, the nuns did their wash. He says, they got those things there. I think they call them braziers or whatever they. He said, they're like cups. I said, he said, there's one that's a small size. He says, I think it'd be perfect for you. I go trotting over there and I shimmy up the pole and I see it. I said, it's perfect. So I yanked that thing off, but I yanked it and I yanked it too hard and it clawed, everything started to sway and the whole wash line came down. So the next, at church that Sunday, the priest wanted to know, nobody's going to say anything, but Sister Josephine's missing an undergarment. My friend Matty says, I said, give it back. I said, I got a spare now. I said, I already cut it in half. And that's how I got my slingshot. Now, here comes the crazy part. You got to remember, it was a very innocent time, okay? Now, you weren't inundated with all this information from if somebody did something wrong in one city, the whole country knew about it. Everything was, everything was just your town and so forth. So there was words like sex were never mentioned. No, I never heard the word sex until they talked about the birds and the bees in the 8th grade, and we got all excited about it. What do you think we talked about? Birds and bees, not the people. I said, we don't care about the birds and what about the people? They never told us. So anyway, this one particular summer, my mom says, look, come with me. Your grandma's looking after Joey. She says, you come with me, I'm going to visit my friend Jean. Jean had a daughter a year older than me and a son a year younger. And she figured I could occupy her kids while they had a nice visit. So it's 4-block walk, and everybody walked in those days. Anyway, so we get there, and my mother knocks on the door, the screen door. Jean yells, it's open, come on in. My mother opens up the door, and I go in before her. And just as I do that, Jean says, I'll be with you in a minute. I'm toweling off my daughter, Lucy. She just had a bath. As she go in there, she drops the towel. And I see a naked girl. This is the first time I saw a naked girl. I said, oh my God. Now you got to remember, at that time, we thought the only difference between boys and girls, boys had the short hair, wore pants. Girls had long hair, wore dresses, and if it got cold, they wore leggings, okay? Girls never wore slacks. Not in those days. So I see this girl, and I says, Ma, I says, something's missing. How's she going to go to bed? It's gone. Ma, it's gone. And I said, I'll explain it to you when you get home. And I'm really, really confused. And I'm in shock. I thought it never even entered my mind that it was that much difference, okay? So we get home, and I said, Mom, what about Lucy? I said, is she going to die? She's going to be fine, son. She says, I'm going to explain something to you. Just a little bit. I said, okay, what is it? What you call your pee-pee is called a penis, and if you don't have one, it's called a vagina. I said, well, how does it work? What about? She says, that's all you got to know for now. The rest you'll understand as you get older. I said, yeah, okay, fine. So I see my friend Maddie outside. I said, Maddie, you want to have a game of catch? He says, yeah. I said, you can't believe what I saw today. I explained it to him. He says, that's a lot of bull. How's she going to pee without that? It can't work. How are you going to do that? So I told him, I said, no, it's called a vagina. He said, well, look, let me get my baseball glove. I'm going to go in, but I'm going to ask my mother. Maybe she knows what a vagina is. I had never heard of such a thing. He comes out 5 minutes later. She said, she told me the same thing your mother said. You know, if you don't have one, that's what it's called. He said, this is too confusing. Let's go play catch. And that was the first shock of my life, was at 7 years old.
That is funny. So how far does the book go until you're what age?
Oh, the book goes from basically from grade school right through the book all the way through high school, the service when I was in the Navy, because I was in the Navy, I was in the Seabees, and we had a rock and roll band. And so there's incidents of when we had to deal with the officers that don't give us guard duty on weekends, and we'll play for your parties once a month for free, okay? So that was the deal. So we played Casablanca. I was stationed in Morocco for about a year, played Casablanca, Tangiers, Marrakesh. That 1 year in North Africa paid for probably close to 3 years of university. We were making money hand over fist. We picked up a 51 Jaguar limousine from a stranded German band. We all chipped in, and that thing held everything. I mean, it was big, and that's what we would go to different clubs and play with. Okay, and one of the and you met some incredible people. We were playing one time, and I was, keep in mind, it was like in Morocco at the time, it was like 400 francs to $1 or something like that. We were in Tangiers and we played late. We just went to the local hotel and we just wanted to sleep. Okay, we were tired. I get a knock on the door. I said, what? I said, Monsieur, would you like some company? I said, no, just leave me alone. Then I called the guy downstairs. I said, don't send any women up here. I got to get some sleep. Yeah, oh yeah, well, there's just a few more. I says, oh, Monsieur, just 1,000 francs, 1,000 francs. That's $2. I said, no, just leave me alone. Next, about 15, 20 minutes later, there's a little knock on the door. Monsieur, would you like company for the night? Only 1,000 francs. I said, no, we're down to $1. We're down to $1. Okay. Anyway, another one. Finally, the last one comes in about 45 minutes later. I said, I got to get some sleep. I said, just go away. But Monsieur, please. 100 francs. That's 27 cents. I said, I was kind of curious. I said, I can't imagine what somebody looks like for 27 cents. But I said, no, to hell with it. You know? But where we made a lot of money, believe it or not, is when you had a band, the bad guys, you know, the pimps, the bad guys, the racketeers and so forth, nobody bothered the band. If you were a band member, nobody bothered you. You were sort of like, well, you know, you don't touch the guys in the band unless they want to be touched. But the one thing that all the women had the same problems with, they all complained about the same thing. You'll never guess what it was.
What was it?
Cold feet. They all complained about cold feet. So I said, I gotta send my mother my money. I had my mother sending me dozens and dozens and dozens of wool socks, cold feet. And they just love me. Vito, you got the socks. I got the socks. I'm charging 2 to 3 times more than what I paid for it.
So you're in the band, you're selling socks to the women.
But I broadened it. Then I started to get underwear. I had my mother going to church every night. She was getting worried about her son. She was doing novenas at night, man. My father sent me a letter, said, what the hell are you doing? He says, it's costing me a fortune you being over there. Your mother's, she's going to the priest and saying her prayers and all this kind of stuff. We got, but you know, there were a lot of funny incidents. Like when we were teenagers, okay? In those days, when we moved to Queens and Rosedale, and it was a big park, and they would have dances on the weekends in the tennis courts and so forth, and just for teenagers. But also the YMCA would have dances too, and that was Saturday, usually for teenagers from 3 to 6. Okay, and you'd have the track around the YMCA, you know, for guys running, and then you'd also have the band music coming in. Okay, so I remember me hooking up with my friends, and this is a really embarrassing time of this one of the most embarrassing moments I ever experienced. I met my friends there, and they said, well, I said, gee, there's a cute girl over there in the corner. I'm going to ask her to dance. I said, what about you guys? He says, now we're going to look around a little bit. I said, well, she really looks good. And now, in those days, nightclubs were the big thing. So what the YMCA did is they had these little round tables, and they had these checkerboard tablecloths that would go right down to the floor. Okay, so I would go over to the girl and say, hey, we don't run down. Tell her who you are. She'd say, her name was Grace. I still remember her name was Grace. She says, oh yeah. She says, yeah. Well, Grace stands up, and she's exactly the same height as she was sitting down. I said, I asked the midget to dance. Or today you call them little people. The top of her head was exactly equal with my belt buckle. Now, I'm 15 years old. You don't have very much control when you're 15 years old. I could feel her breath. And it's a slow song. When I keep moving my butt out further away, can't wait for it to end. I'm dying. So I said, I gotta go. I got a part-time job. I said, but it was fun dancing with you, great. And I'm going back to my friends. I'm trying to be bent over so I wouldn't be so obvious my problem. And I look at my friends. They're hanging on to each other. They're laughing so hard. They said, son, you look like a horizontal V. He says, look, everybody's laughing. I said, oh, yeah, everybody in there. There must have been 50 kids were looking at me and laughing. I go, oh, yeah. That was the most embarrassing moment.
Vito, it sounds like a wonderful book. When, how long has it been out there? When did you publish the book?
It's been about a year, and what I've done is we got a lot of hits, but we didn't, because they wanted more and more promotion and things of that nature. And what I did is I said, I'm gonna. Every time I talked to everybody kept saying, boy, that'll make a good movie, or that'll be a fun thing to do and so forth. So I put more of my emphasis on that, which seems to be developing into a lot of different things. And I can't believe working with this guy out of Texas, and he's in Texas, his partner is in New Jersey, and then there's Anthony Moore with Lindsay in California. And every time we start talking, it took forever to say, let's do it organized. Okay, the first 8 years, grade school, okay? Because we'd start laughing as soon as we start talking about it, Did that really happen? Yeah, it really happened. But, you got to remember the times, I mean, I used to take, when I graduated grade school, to go to high school, I went to high school in Manhattan. So it was a 4-block walk. You go under the highway underpass, get on a bus. That's a 25-minute ride. Then you went down to the subway station, which was another 25 minutes. And you're like this here, okay? Well, a lot of funny stuff happens in that stuff. I mean, and we started talking about it, my mother would make me a bologna sandwich every day. I had a bologna sandwich every day for lunch, all 4 years of high school. 3 slices of bologna, mayonnaise, 3 slices of thin sliced tomatoes for moisture, my mother would say. Put it between 2 books, and you just carry your books. Nobody had satchels like you have today. You just carried the books. Well, I liked bologna, but it gave me flatulence. And you can't believe the reaction that you have when you're in a packed car in a subway, and you have lost some control. The comments that you see is, oh, they broke that sewer line. God damn it, they broke the sewer line again. Oh, some woman would say, I don't know what that is, but it's making my makeup run and all this kind of stuff. And it was, so when I started writing this, the funny thing is you find you're entertaining yourself, remembering all of that stuff. And it was like just like watching the television show for yourself. And I've enjoyed it. I've never had so much fun.
So you said you're working on a screenplay, right?
I did the screenplay. We got that finished. Now we got it into about 31 different movie production houses and so forth. We're going to see what happens there.
Well, good luck. I think it'd make a great movie.
Everybody says that, and then we got we got that. We got finishing about another week's work, and then we're going to submit like a package to like CBS. We got a shot at that because they have a program for like a TV show or movie, whatever they're going to do with it. We'll see. And then we got we'll see where it's going to. Oh, and one of the guys at Anthony's place, his name is Daxton. Bright young guy. And that's been the fun of it. I've been working with wonderful people. I am so impressed as to how intelligent they are and knowledgeable, and with no baloney. I mean, they're just hardworking, great people. And Daxton said, look, Vito said, I want to help you do like a rewrite on some of this stuff. Maybe we got some ideas on this. Okay. So, but the funny thing, the way the whole thing started, when I wrote the book, and I said, I got to get somebody to help me promote this in the right way. I didn't want to do the Facebook thing. I didn't want to do what everybody else does, because you're not going to stand out.
Right.
So I found out about Anthony Moore Communications, and he said, well, we don't do a lot of that stuff. He says, well, give me one of your stories. So I told him a story about the midget. He calls me back the next day. He says, I couldn't get that damn story out of my head. Well, I mean, also, we tried to, my friends and I, we saw, my exit on the subway was Penn Station. And every morning that you were there were two little nuns, okay? And they had this little wire basket, and thousands of people going past this, and they're dropping the coins, and some people dropping the dollars. And I'm watching it, I said, I noticed it the first time. I took my time the second morning, and I noticed that they would take a turn and go like this here and empty it into a big pocket, I guess, in their habits, and the thing would be empty again. I go, these nuns are pulling in some big money. So I mentioned to my friends. So my friend Moff says, I'm gonna be late for school tomorrow. I said, I'm gonna go there early. I'll see, maybe I get there the same time. So he does, and we hook up in that afternoon. I said, what? He says, yeah. I says, you sure they're nuns, Vito? I says, it could be a couple of hookers. I said, no, I'm sure they're nuns. He said, they're pulling in more money than anybody dropping coins in their basket. He said, there's no doubt about that. He said, I calculate they're pulling in about $200 a morning. He says, and then don't forget your rush hour at night. He said, they're making more money in a day than my dad makes in a week. I said, what do you want to do? He says, we got to try to become nuns. We work 42nd Street. We'll take turns. We don't shave yet. Well, to make our voices, hi, thank you, God bless. We can do that. We went to costume shops. We went they take one look at us, don't trust your kid, get out of here, and so forth. We even went to a comic where they had all nuns dying, and we asked them for their old clothes because we told them our mothers were seamstresses and we can make clothes for the poor with it. And they just, nobody believed us. We tried for about a month. We could never pull it off, but we tried. We wanted to really be nuns. We would take turns. The money was awesome.
Vito, thank you so much for being on the podcast. If somebody wants to get a copy of the book, where is it available?
The best thing is to my website. It beganinbrooklyn.com. Really easy.
It beganinbrooklyn.com. Thank you again so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your stories and your journey. I truly appreciate you.
Oh, it was fun talking to you. I'll tell you, I could talk forever. I'll just tell you, it's a different world today, and what I miss most really is things were just more black and white. People were more honest with each other. People didn't. If you called somebody a liar in those days, boy, that would be really, really bad.
Not so much today, is it?
No. No, there's no such thing as a little liar or big. You're a liar if you did something, okay? And it's just the way it was, But the book's a lot of fun. You'll see reading about when I had we finally could get a car. Oh, my part-time job. You want me to tell you one quick one before you go?
Quickly, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I had I had a part-time job on Saturdays, Louis the Butcher, okay? And that was the that was a bike with the little wheel in the front and the big basket, like they had in the old days. Well, his best customer was Fanny. Fanny lived about 4 blocks away. So this particular day, I got a big load of stuff for Fanny. And I get there and I knock on the door and she yells from the second floor and it's just, open it, go in there, son. He said, the door's open, go inside. Just start unloading. I said, okay, so I'll be down in a minute. Now, Fanny was not quite all there. She was about 70 years old, had frizzy hair. She came down, she had this house dress. I still remember, pink and orange flowers like on that with snaps. That went like from the shoulder across this way, okay? Well, she decides she's going to help me pack. So she bends over and she forgot to use the snaps. When she bent over, the whole dress would pop open. She had nothing on underneath. This is a 70-year-old woman. It was like a mini afro would pop out. I'm 15 years old, I'm in shock. And she'd stand up and the whole thing would disappear again. Bend over, poof, stand up, close it. And I go back. She gave me a quarter tip, 75 cents an hour. That was a good tip. And I go back, I see Louis. I says, well, you can't believe what I saw, Louis. He starts laughing. He says, now, welcome to the public, kid. There's more to come.
Oh, that is a funny story. Vito, again, thank you so much for sharing your stories and being the newest member to the book club. I truly appreciate you.
Well, it was fun, and thank you for the opportunity.
You are very welcome.
You take.
Thank you for listening to another episode of BHP Book Club. I am Kelly Morgan, your host. I just wrapped up with author, storyteller, Vito Altavilla. He shared his wonderful memoir, It Started in Brooklyn, which is available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. He's got some wonderful stories. I truly enjoyed speaking with him. He was a wonderful guest, and he may be turning that book into a screenplay. We wish you all the best, Vito. If you are an author and you would like to promote your book and come on the podcast and be the newest member to the book club, it is simple, simple, simple. All you have to do is go to my website, brightheadedpublishing.com, go to the contact section, drop me a line, I'll get in touch, we'll hook up. The next thing you know, you'll be the next author on the podcast promoting their book. You can also get all my social media links as well on the website. Thank you so much for listening. I truly couldn't do this without you. I am truly grateful for every person who listens to this podcast. Next week, I'll have another author, but until then, keep writing.